Today I want to talk about what's in this can. I'm working on a how to customize your Dressform class for pattern review, and if you're interested in that, check the description below because I put a link to it. It's going to be on the 7th of May from 3 to 4:30 on Zoom with pattern review. The reason why I'm talking about that today with what's in this green can is because I'm going to be making some padding shapes to help customize a dress form. And to make them easier to work with, I kind of want to put them together so they stay together while I'm working on them. And so I want to talk about Sulky KK2000, and this version is a safe, no harsh chemical formula. And I really appreciate that when I'm working on things. I use this for my machine embroidery. I use this for, if I'm working on any sort of quilting project, which is far and few between. But every now and then I'll work on a bag or I'll work on a small wall hanging or something. This KK2000 holds all your layers together. So if you're a quilter, this is excellent. But I'm going to show you how to use it when you're working with layers that you want to hold together, so you can see what you're doing. So just very quickly, you can see next to me I have this dress form, and what I did was I padded all the way around, and I think you can see if I just twirl her, okay, I put a big swath of padding all the way around the dress form. If you're trying to get your dress form to fit you and you are symmetrical front to back, meaning you've got a similar front measurement to back measurement, doing this is a good way to do it because this increases the measurement equally all the way around. But in many cases, you just need to, add some extra curves in specific places. So I'm going to show you how to use this KK2000 to make quick work of it. So to get started here, I just have, I have my setup for how I set my workstation up for when I'm using the spray. I'll take a piece of my pattern paper and put it on the surface of my cutting mat because I don't want to make my cutting mat sticky. So this paper is just here to protect my work surface. And then I've got a second piece of paper here, and what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to make a pattern piece. And it's going to be a real quick pattern piece, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tape measure, which I had, here it is, sorry. And I'm just going to measure my belly. So basically I'm just going to measure across like this, and I can kind of feel, where my belly sticks out like this. So I'm getting 15 inches here. So I'm just going to jot that down. 15 inches. And then I'm also going to measure like the vertical. Okay, so just like, I'm just putting the tape measure on me to get a basic size of, what I need for padding in the front. And you can do this for any specific aspect or any curve that you have. And again, I'm going to cover a lot more of this in the class. So if you want to join me for the how to customize your dress form to make a body double, definitely join me for that. But basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get my ruler and I'm just going to draw a line across my paper like this, and I'm going to make it 15 inches long. So let's just be like, I'm going to go down here. So let's make 15 inches like this. Okay, and then I'm going to find the middle of that, which would be 7.5. And I'm just going to make a mark at 7.5. 6, 7.5. This. So that's our approximate middle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come straight across here. And I'm going to draw a line like that. So that I'm going to capture the vertical length of my tummy. And that was 7 inches. So I'm going to go up 3.5 inches on each side here. And basically, I just want to get a basic shape. This is not like specific, exact measurements. I'm not being super careful, but I want to create a shape where I can use it as a template to make my thing I'm going to pad up my dress form with. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come along here. I think I'm going to make a little bit of a curve here, like that. And then I'm going to connect it to a curve here like this. Something like this. And you can see I'm not being super serious. I just want some sort of curve. And it doesn't need to be, you know, something like that. I think that's going to work nice. Okay, notice I only drew half of it because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just move my paper out of the way. I'm going to fold this little pattern piece that I made in half, like this. Okay, and then I'm going to take my rotary cutter and I'm literally just going to cut it out so I have a symmetrical shape for my tummy pad I'm going to make. And here's the thing, if you have asymmetry, you could make it bigger on one side or smaller on the other. All of these things are possible, you know, when you're making your own situation. And actually, I'm going to move this paper again because I need to do some cutting now. So what I'm going to use to make my pad, a few different things. I'm going to use cotton batting. This has got a very low loft to it, so it will probably add, you know, a generous 1/8 inch of height. So it's not something that is going to make a huge change in the thickness of the pad, but sometimes you just need a little bit. And then I have this fluffier batting. This is polyester batting, and it's probably, you know, when you squeeze it tight, it's probably 1/4 inch. So I'm going to be using that. And then I also have some quilted fabric. So there's batting in here already, and it's got quilted fabric on the top and the bottom. This is really good to use on your top layer of your pad, or to combine it with the batting, because it's just a little more structural and it stays together and holds its shape better than just plain batting. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use this pattern piece to cut out the base of my pad like this. I'm literally going to cut out the base shape. And again, you can see I'm not like being ultra careful here, but I want to get like a shape, that I need. So I've got a couple of those. Maybe I'll need 2 actually. Let me go ahead and make one more. But I've got 2 layers of this heavier batting here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my original pattern piece and I'm just going to dash around, and I'm going to get rid of, between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch around the edge like this. Okay. And then I'm going to cut that out. And I'm going to go ahead and cut out, I don't know, depending on how much you need to add for your measurement, which is something I'll get into in the class, will depend on how many of these things I need. But basically, let's go ahead and cut out, 2 of these. We'll cut it this way. Okay, so I've cut that one out. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut out one more layer, but I'm going to make this one even slightly smaller. So again, I'm just going to trace around. Maybe not quite as big of a difference, maybe like more of like a 1/4 this time, or 3/8. And I'm going to cut this out. Okay, and then I'm going to cut this shape out like this. And the reason why I'm using this cotton quilted fabric for the top layer is because I think it's just a little bit more pinnable. I cut this out like this. Okay. All right, so now I've got my layers. All right, and I'm going to bring back my surface that I'm going to use for spraying, and I just want to show you how nice this works. So I'm going to take my first layer of polyester batting, and I'm going to go ahead and just give it a light spray. Then I'm going to stick on the second layer. And what I want you to see, like I could pick it up and shake it around, it's all one piece now. So I'm not going to lose, you know, the layers as I'm working with getting this to work on my dress form to be the shape I need. So now I'm going to take the next smaller piece and I'm going to go ahead and spray that. Okay. And then I can position it in the center of the batting, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and spray this one on. Okay. And see, look, it's really holding it together nicely. See? And then finally, I'm just going to spray the surface of this. I'm going to center that on here. Okay, and what you see that I've created is a pad shape that gets narrower towards the edges, so you're not just slapping batting on, and you could make custom shapes that you need. So look, if I were to show you, like I could put this on my dress form where my tummy is, okay, and it's a very similar shape. So I just want you to think about all the reasons why you might need to, you know, stick your things together and not asphyxiate yourself as you're spraying. Because when I use some of the other ones that I've used in the past, like 505 Temporary Adhesive Spray, it's got a very obnoxious smell to it, and it's got toxic chemicals in it. So I'm really, really happy with this. It's non-flammable, odorless, colorless, and it's safe for the ozone layer. So I feel like this is just a better way to go if you need a temporary adhesive spray, and this is just one of the ways that I would use it. Again, if I want to do some machine embroidery, I can spray the stabilizer in the hoop and then position my fabric right on top without having to hoop the fabric. That works great for things that are heavier like towels and fleece, so you're not squeezing your hoops, you know, to squeeze in that heavy kind of fabric. So this is one of my little friends, and I want to share it with you today. If you have any questions or comments, please post those things below and I will help you. And again, if you're interested in joining me for how to make a body double dress form, there's a link in the description below for that as well. So I just want to thank everybody for watching Cool Tools today. And I do want to say I have a very exciting cool tool. It's going to arrive this week. So next week's cool tool is going to be super exciting. It's going to help me with something I've been trying to figure out for myself for a long time. And I think I have, I'll just give you a hint. It's going to be, I think, the final thing I need to organize all of my patterns nice and neat without leaving them stacked up like they are right now. So that's the hint for the cool tool for next week. So hope you join me for that. And thank you guys for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.